Hey everyone, welcome back to Blow Up. Today I'm serving up 5 jaw-dropping stories that expose entitlement in its rawest form. From bosses who hold you back to siblings, customers, and even neighbors who think you owe them, these tales will make you laugh, cry, and question just how far entitlement can go. Buckle up because we're about to dive in. Recently, I applied for a job within the same company but at a different building/person. I had informed my boss about the interview and she was delighted because she thought I'd still work with her part-time. Until I mentioned they offered me full-time, 9 to 6. I have worked for my boss for 2 years part-time because I was studying, but decided to drop out of college after a year to focus on earning money instead of spending more years getting the degree because I was broke, barely earned enough to move out, and was impatient. I'm 25F, and I felt behind compared to my peers who already had their degrees and places of their own. I graduated high school late at 21. My boss was aware of this, yet did not offer me a full-time position despite having more free time, and only gave me a $1 raise. I was naive enough to think there was no full-time position considering my coworkers don't work full-time either, and she accused it of being because they have another job. Because I want to earn more pay per month, and with my experience with the company, I thought to apply to other branches to occupy the rest of my week. But when the interview ended, the manager of that branch mentioned the possibility of working full-time after some months working there, and she showed me the hours, which had me shocked. It felt like my potential was being wasted at my current job. A few days later, I informed my boss of the offer because I innocently thought she would be accepting of my possible transfer and help me prepare. Instead, she became angry and stated, "How could you have the audacity to betray me? After all I've done for you, after all these years? She will give that other person a piece of her mind? No way I should consider that position after how hard I worked to train you. I must prioritize me. How dare they offer that to her worker?" Not once had she given me a better offer for me to want to stay. Throughout the time I had worked for her, she belittled me, compared me to others, made me cry in front of everyone, and made me feel guilty over little mistakes. She would also breathe down my neck, instruct me to do something but get angry when I did it. I tend to people please, and despite all this I stayed because I didn't want to be left without a job. But I received an email today, February 20th, 2025, that I got accepted for the job and will have my employment contract soon. I will finally be free. Isn't it wild when a boss treats you like you owe her your entire future, and then you finally get an offer that sets you free? If you were in my shoes, would you keep trying to please someone who never truly valued you, or seize the chance to break free? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I spent the last 7 years building my business to support myself initially, and now, my brother. He has had a lot of mental health struggles in his 20s but pushed through. He left a stable white-collar job he hated and started a $12 per hour retail gig right before the pandemic. He got furloughed, I happened to get a call for a dream job I couldn't refuse, and I spent the next 3 months between training my brother and onboarding to this new company. 4 years later I got rifed and we are working together again. You'd think he would be grateful, or maybe you wouldn't considering we are in the Entitled People subreddit. He makes $100,000 a year doing work that should take 6 hours a day max. I don't tell him when to work. I don't restrict his time off. He chooses what orders he wants to accept or reject. He has the ability to make $150,000 a year if he wanted to put in a full day's work. Sounds great, right? Wrong. He complains constantly. He has to respond to client inquiries from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but because he's so busy, he needs my help, despite the fact I already answer all messages outside of business hours and on weekends. If he sees that a message hasn't been responded to in 1 hour and I said I was helping that day, he berates me for not communicating that I'm offline and accuses me of not doing my job. He constantly tells me I don't care about the business, all the while I'm literally completing double his workload covering 3x more hours of client chats. He has told me I need to tell him if I'm not going to be available and when I'm going offline, even though my schedule has zero impact on his responsibilities or expectations as an employee. I'm frustrated. I'm feeling like the actual roles here are reversed, and in reality he's just a super entitled brat. Imagine working double time for your own brother, who, despite earning $100K a year, acts like a boss you never signed up for. Would you set boundaries or just roll with the constant complaints? Share your thoughts and any similar family work drama in the comments. I work at a call center for a certain members-only bulk store chain, specifically in the online branch. One of the perks we offer our customers is an almost comically lenient return policy. We started limiting certain electronics to 90 days from the date of delivery back in 2016, and our returns team needs to review and approve any returns for orders over 2 years old, but by and large we'll accept anything. I like this policy. It's a lot easier for me to just process a return than it is to argue with the customer for 20 minutes about how no, sir, it isn't our fault that you didn't think to open the box until well after 90 days and now the computer doesn't work. I can get you over to warranty, but beyond that my hands are tied. The customers love this policy because it means they can basically return stuff whenever they want within reason. Returns usually approve the 2+ year requests unless it's something egregiously dumb. The key word there is within reason. It's early into my shift. I don't think I'd even had my first break yet. Phones are dead at this time of day, as is typical once the holiday order rush and the post-holiday return rush subsides, so I'm sitting there trying to figure out what the fuck, 71 down, on my crossword puzzle is when a call comes through. I snap to attention, give my spiel and ask what the guy needs. Nobody came to pick up the stove I'm returning. They delivered the new one and took the gas range, but I still have an electric one to return. I say, well, I'm sorry to hear that, sir. I'd be happy to see what's going on. I check the logistics scheduler. The only return this guy has is for the one that got picked up. I ask if he has the order number for the item being returned. He does not. I pull up his order history and ask him when he ordered the item. For context, the order history we see on our end only goes back to about 2017. I think August of 2013? So it's going to be one of those calls, huh? I'm not looking forward to rummaging through the DOS system for his order number, especially since the order is tied to his wife's membership number from over 20 years ago. After about 20 minutes of checking every membership number on file and multiple assertions of, the last people just pulled it right up. Bullshit, believe me, I tried. I finally find the order. The return is cancelled because our returns team doesn't think refunding a 12-year-old stove, since it's highly unlikely the issue is due to a manufacturing defect, is in the spirit of our return policy. I explain this to the customer as gingerly as I can, and he demands to know why we didn't tell him this years ago. I'm grandfathered into your 90-day policy, aren't I? When did that change? Why didn't you tell me years ago that you weren't gonna accept my return anymore? I need to escalate this right now. I try to explain that these situations are handled on a case-by-case basis, but he isn't having it and asks for a supervisor. I hand him over to my supervisor, who reiterates that a stove failing after 12 years isn't something we can blame on the manufacturer. And before I hang up, he adds, if I had known you wouldn't accept my return now, I would have returned this years ago. So basically, he just admitted he wanted us to pay him to haul away his junk rather than accept that his stove had reached the end of its lifespan. Dear God, I'm so glad this job pays well. Imagine having to explain to someone that a 12-year-old stove is no longer covered. If you were on the phone, would you stand firm or lose your cool? What's the craziest return request you've ever handled? Share your wildest customer stories in the comments. This story happened quite a few years ago with me and my friends, but after reading a lot on this subreddit, I feel now is as good a time as any to share. In November 2019, me and a couple of my friends, Haley, Rose, and Rachel, got an opportunity to travel to the Valley of the Kings in Egypt. Note, we are archaeology graduates. While our families and friends were excited and proud of us for being able to go on this trip, Rachel's family did not feel the same way. Rachel's younger sister, whom I'll call Lisa, was the golden child of her family. Anything she wanted, her parents gave to her, while Rachel had to take out a student loan to pay for college, and Lisa's parents paid for her tuition only for her to drop out 2 years in. Instead, Lisa tried to build a career as a model and influencer on Instagram. When Rachel mentioned that she was going to Egypt with us, and that our plane tickets and accommodation had already been taken care of as part of our archaeological fieldwork, Lisa got jealous. She felt that a trip to Egypt, with all its Instagram potential, would launch her modeling career. Their parents demanded that Rachel give her ticket to Lisa, but Rachel said no. It was already paid for by the foundation specifically for her and our group who were trained for this kind of work. According to Rachel, she's had back and forth arguments with her family leading up to the trip, and eventually she left home and moved in with her boyfriend, now husband. I held on to our plane tickets as we were all to meet up at my dad's place before heading to the airport. At that time, I still lived with my dad. As Rachel, Haley, Rose, and I were hanging out and getting ready, Lisa's car pulled up with her and their mom, demanding once more that Rachel give her ticket to Lisa. Lisa even had a couple of bags with her. For context, aside from Rachel, nobody in her family had ever traveled by plane, and Lisa and her mom had never been overseas. The only international travel their dad ever did was driving trucks to and from Mexico. I pointed out to Lisa that if she really wanted to go to Egypt, she could buy her own tickets and book her own accommodation. However, Lisa said she didn't want to do any of that, She wanted Rachel's place on our trip so that all expenses were paid for and so that someone would accompany her since she didn't want to travel alone. Eventually, Lisa and her mom left after realizing that arguing wouldn't get them anywhere, and the four of us, me, Haley, Rachel, and Rose, flew off to Egypt. After the dig at the Valley of the Kings, we did get to tour Cairo and see the pyramids of Giza. As for Lisa, while she still posts on Instagram, she seems to have given up on her modeling/influencer career and now works in a warehouse. After the pandemic, she did get to go on vacation to Cancun, but that's about it. Family drama on an international trip. Imagine someone trying to hijack your plane ticket for a free ride. How would you handle it if a relative tried to force their way into your once-in-a-lifetime adventure? Let me know your wildest travel family dramas in the comments. My wife has an entitled coworker/acquaintance. I use the term acquaintance as she does run in our friend circle, but we try to limit or avoid contact with her. We will call her Carrie. Anyways, Carrie is known for bullying coworkers at work. Saying that she can get people fired, she can't, screaming at people and at large just general bad behavior. Her favorite thing to intimidate people with is to tell them to fuck around and find out. This is important for later. So Carrie had a fuck buddy. Nothing serious, just a guy she would bang and kick out the door. Carrie is also notorious for collecting engagement rings. She would begin dating a guy, get a ring from them, get them to pay off some bill for her, then kick them to the curb. Again, I bring this up only as context to her character and to reinforce that the fuck buddy guy meant nothing to her, as she didn't date him nor try getting a ring from him. She used him, then kicked him to the curb whenever someone with money showed her attention. She would also frequently talk shit about this guy behind his back. So Carrie was on one of her short-term engagements, so the fuck buddy, let's call him Bill, was currently not someone she was seeing, as the new guy just bought her a $6,000 ring. I'm serious, she collected engagement rings like they were Pokemon, and paid 10 grand to get her roof fixed. So she was happy with this guy and had no interest at all in Bill. Enter Mandy. Mandy is another coworker of my wife and Carrie. I personally don't know her, but from what I've been told is she just got out of a 15-year marriage where she wasn't allowed to do anything and was very controlled. Carrie and Mandy are friends, drinking buddies. Carrie likes to drink a lot, and by a lot, I mean all the time. But nevertheless, they were on good terms. So randomly Mandy meets Bill. Mandy doesn't know Bill's history with Carrie, nor knows that he even knows her. They hit it off really well. And they are getting along so well that they begin dating. And it blossoms into a great relationship, one that's built on respect and love. Carrie finds out, and she loses her fucking mind. Again, she never dated Bill, never wanted to date Bill, she never had any interest in him besides sex. Hell, she was already engaged to a guy. But Mandy took her man. And she let the world know about it. Carrie started by going to their boss daily and asking him, "Why does that little bitch still work here?" She would also loudly exclaim this on the work floor for all to hear. Also, Carrie spent a whole hour yelling and screaming at her for something Mandy didn't even do. Carrie would also frequently harass them both when they were out and about in town. She would loudly call her a bitch, slut, cunt, and just all the nasty things you can say about someone. She would not only loudly say these things in their proximity but tell anyone that would listen or not listen, basically anyone around her, how she was wronged by Mandy and Bill and what she thought about it, and that Mandy is fucking around, so she's going to find out. Fast forward 2 months. Mandy and Bill are still together and extremely happy. Carrie is, not surprisingly, no longer engaged to that guy. Also, not surprisingly, she has already been engaged to another guy and married after a week. It was, unfortunately, the 2-year anniversary of the passing of a mutual friend of all parties involved. Carrie is using this time to take the week off work to drink. This is a whole other can of worms. Basically, she isn't close to this person who passed as she claims to be. But anyways, once work is over, everyone else goes to the bar to have a drink to celebrate the departed life. So again, once Carrie, after 2 full days of drinking, sees Mandy, she begins to let loose with all the shaming stuff. Mandy, finally having enough of it, attempts to talk to Carrie in an attempt to reconcile. Carrie is having none of this and keeps calling her names and proceeds to tell her that Mandy is fucking around and is going to find out, and ends it by calling her a cunt. Well, I'm guessing something snapped and Mandy straight up threw a beer bottle straight at her, hitting her in the face. Imagine the cop in The Big Lebowski throwing the coffee cup, knocking her on her ass. There is a slight pause and someone I don't know pipes up, "It looks like you were the one that fucked around and found out." Carrie, obviously stunned, gets up and leaves. So the next day she showed up to work with a very obvious black eye. She isn't saying anything to Mandy, but is going to everyone else complaining that she was the victim, not understanding that everyone had been watching her bully this poor girl for the last few months. And that kind of it. Nothing else has happened since then, but if it does, I'll let you know. Sorry this got long-winded. Wow, talk about karma hitting hard. When an entitled bully finally gets her comeuppance in front of everyone, it's like watching a live-action fuck around and find out moment. How would you react if you saw someone get publicly called out for years of bullying? Would you cheer them on or simply shake your head? Share your thoughts and any similar stories in the comments below. These 5 stories showcase entitlement in its wildest forms, from bosses and family members holding you back, to colleagues and customers demanding special treatment. They remind us that whether in the workplace or at home, entitlement breeds chaos, but standing up for yourself and laughing at the absurdity can turn even the worst moments into valuable lessons. How would you handle such outrageous behavior? Let's discuss in the comments. Thanks for watching Blow Up. If these outrageous tales of entitlement made you laugh, cry, or reflect on your own experiences, please hit like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the unpredictable world of Reddit. This is Blow Up. Stay resilient, keep laughing, and never let entitlement steal your shine.